Hi and welcome back to Wappler Unwrapped. This is part 2 in the lesson regarding creating an update form. So where are we going to start? First of all, remember when we created that data query? If we look at a query builder, what we didn't do was to ensure that the fields were in the order in which we wanted them to appear in the form. I did that deliberately just so that we can show how easy it is to change the order once we've actually created the form. So first thing I'm going to do is just move these into a more common sense order. Obviously the university name, that's what it's all about, should be at the top, so we can simply just drag it up to where we want it. Logically after the name would be the address, which falls within the street field. I'm just going to say at this point, this data is something I inherited through a project I've been working on. Data in the places is a little bit suspect, but that's what I've got to work on, I'm afraid. So city would be the next. So again, ensure you always select that horizontal form group and just drag it up to where we want it. After city, well, we'll leave London Borough because it's important for London areas. Because it's such a vast city, it's handy to know which borough it's in. County, I didn't know Scotland was a county of the England, but they've obviously just decided to use that field to store the fact it's in Scotland. So again, we can just drag that. I'm sorry, we should have the full form group. And then lastly, typically in address, we would have the postcode. Number of students, number of foreign students, their email address, which obviously is a fake for data protection purposes. The phone number, again, made up for data protection purposes. This last one is the unique university ID that we talked about. We never ever change that. And we need to make sure that it's not able to be changed. So the first thing we're going to do is in that, I'm going to change that to a hidden field. Because it's a hidden field, we can just delete those prompts and we've dealt with that very quickly. Okay, so next I'm going to create have a look at the training database that we have. Sorry about that. Look at the university field. And we're going to look at that in design view. And I only do that basically because we need to see the size of each of the individual fields. So we can see, for instance, that, no idea why that's 20. Fields, different sizes, they're all varchar, borough 22, the email we're given 40, that might actually be a little bit short in some cases, the street field 142. We need to know this because we need to limit the input within those fields to the size of or limit the size of the form, should I say, to do the size of the field. So let's start that Aberdeen University that we see there, that university name field. We need to make sure that that is not allowed to be anything more than 60 characters. We'll do that in the DOM panel over here. We can see now within that we can go down to maximum length, and all we need to do is add 60 in there. And this obviously is an absolutely required. You can't create a university without a name, so we're going to make sure that is a required field. University name is the prompt. Just tidy that up with a capital N. As standard, the input forms create a second prompt underneath the fields. I'm not going to bother with those in this particular demo because I don't see the need for it, so we can just simply delete them. The only thing else that we have is, because we have data in there, we are not seeing the placeholders. If we look down here in the DOM panel, we'll see that there is a placeholder set, enter university name, and I'm quite happy with that. The street, Again, we've got to set that. Now that allows 142 characters. So we'll set max length to 142. We'll just get rid of that second prompt there. We're happy with that. The city is set to 20 characters maximum. And again, we'll see that the placeholders generally come in with something reasonably sensible. Enter city, I'm quite happy with that. The borough is 22 characters maximum. I'm just going to change that slightly. Enter London Borough if appropriate. So obviously that only is that's only relevant to London addresses. County is a maximum of 16 characters. Postcode, we're going to have 8 characters. Now, we've got to bear in mind here, some of these inputs, there are specialist input fields for them, but I tend to prefer just to leave them as text because they restrict rather than benefit. So max length for postcode is 14. I'm just going to give that a capital C just to tidy things up. Number of students, while we're there should be a space in there. That's set to text. I'm absolutely fine with that. I don't have a problem with having that as a text. However, just because we should be a little more pedantic in the view of the fact that we're in a training course, I'm going to switch back in the app structure and let's just change that to a number field. Number of foreign students, same thing again, we'll just change that to, just change a placeholder and we'll change that to a number. While we're busy, if we pop back in the DOM panel, and sort of jumped ahead a little bit there, we can also set maximum lengths there. So max values and min values. But I'm not going to do that. We will, however, reduce the size of that. I don't think we really need any more than, let's say, 8 characters for that field. And same with that. Email, let's set that to an email field. I'll just give us a little bit of email validation. Back in the DOM panel, our email field allows a maximum of 40 characters, so we'll set max length to 40. And last of all, phone. There is a specific phone type. I'm not sure whether it's actually in that list. Thankfully not, to be honest. It's not something I like to do. Just like to leave it as text. Just as a little aside, anybody who hasn't worked this out, never ever use a number field for a phone number because most phone numbers start with a 0. If you make it a number field, it will drop that leading 0. So always talking about the text field there. And that phone number is a maximum of 20 characters. So back in the DOM field, max len 20. I think we've hit them all. Do you know what? If we missed the odd one, let's not worry about it. The process is simple enough. We just repeated the same process over and over again. So you really should know what you're doing about now. We'll just take those prompts out now. There we are, that's that tidied up. So now we have some validation in relation to the input fields. Just a little bit more tidy up, I think. Just generally with the form, the container, it's really tight up against the top of the screen. So we just need to add a little bit of padding in here. It's padding 5, just to drop it down a little. In a production system, we'd probably have a menu there, but just to keep things looking a little more tidy. What was very obviously missing when we were working with this before was some sort of confirmation that something had been saved. That's really easy to do in Wappler. I'm just going to close that down for the moment. If we go back to our system, into our App Connect components, alerts, we'll see something called notifications. This was introduced, I think, in version 1.2.3. There was a more convoluted method required before then. And just add that notification element to our system. Now what we can do is we can go to the form, dynamic attributes, dynamic events, my apologies, and we'll see we have server connect there. Select that and say on success. There we can hit the lightning bolt, and we can tell it to do something now with the notifications which appears. What we're going to do is we're going to ask for a success notification. And that success notification in single quotes is just simply going to be saved. And that's all it takes. Now we can customize that notification quite significantly if we wish. Where it's aligned, its offset, spacing, opacity, its timeout, etc. But I'm quite happy to leave that with the defaults at the moment. And I think it's really good practice just to set something up as well in terms of what happens if that update fails. Back into dynamic events, server connect, and what we've got is error. Now, I'm not going to go into a big detailed error routine here. What I'm going to do is put a warning notification in, and I'm going to just say update failed, please try again. We will probably look at system administrator emails, etc. at this point, but this is beyond the level of the course at the moment. So let's select that. Basically, I think we've covered everything we need to do in relation to validation and messaging. Just to follow on from the theme that I introduced about adding a bit of glitz, let's just add a little bit more. Let's go into our container. And I'm going to add a dynamic event, or even a dynamic attribute, my apologies. Animation, enter animation. What I'm just going to do is give this screen a little bit of a wobble. Okay, let's save. Let's open that in the browser. And there we are. We have a little bit of a wobble to the screen. Our save button drops in. Now, if we save, we'll see that we get the confirmation message. Just to show that it is saving, we'll just add a 90 on the end of that. So thank you for joining me on the part 2 of creating an update form. Our next lesson will be inserting a record into the database. Thanks for joining me, and goodbye.